Kim and I are back with part 2 of our exclusive interview with Natania Reuben and the cover-up that Diddy did in her shooting. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We are so grateful to have her here. Welcome back, Natania. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you for having me.
I want to let Kim lead this because I didn't get you to let you talk in the last one because the story was so engrossing. I just was invested. But Kim, we're now afterwards. Set it up. What do you want to ask her?
Well, I think the first part we talked a lot about the incident itself, the chain of events that led you there, and what happened at that club. So obviously things happened after the club. Thankfully, you are still with us. There was a trial. Can you talk a little bit about that? And specifically with the trial, as we talked about it in the first part, there seems to be some misinformation or misunderstanding of what really went down in that trial, what was said, what people were blamed for, and what they were not. I'd love to hear your perspective and specifically kind of what you wish people understood about that trial that maybe they don't at this time.
Certainly. So first and foremost, thank you for that. And I told you, Kim, I think you're the cat's meow. I appreciate you. So during the trial, people have this misnomer. I see people try to gaslight survivor victims online. There's this whole, well, why didn't you say anything back then? I always say, Gen Z and Gen Alphas, sit this out. Go that way. I did. I absolutely did. I was a star witness for the trial. I told the EMT. I told my sister who I called from the hospital. I told the doctors. I told the surgeon. I told everybody what happened to me and who did it. Puffy shot me in the face. During the trial, of course, there was a long period of investigation. I got shot December 27th, 1999. The trial didn't take place till 2001. And it was a relatively 7.5 week trial. During the trial, a lot took place. Agendas were already afoot. I mean, even from the very day that the shooting took place, because if you notice their mugshots, only Shine Truly has a mugshot. Puffy and JLO, Puffy's in front of a concrete wall, JLO is in front of a bulletin board in some old t-shirts. Now, I want everyone to think that was the night of the shooting. You don't think at Christmas time, Puffy and JLO went out in some old raggedy t-shirts, right? No. There was already a agenda afoot to conceal what they had on, to try to sway the minds of people, to throw your memory off, but they couldn't throw my memory off. During the trial, I testified in the trial. Johnny Cochran questioned me for time immemorial, for so long. Eventually, he put his hands on his hip, let out a deep sigh, flipped back his jacket pockets, and went over to Ben Brafman and put his hand on his shoulder and said, "You give it a try." Because they could not impeach me. See, this memory, like it is today, December 27th will be 25 years, is as rock solid as the night it occurred.
Not to interrupt, but that's a pretty big accomplishment to get Cochran. He was damn good.
Absolutely. And he literally looked at me like, whew, what measure of woman is this? Because he could not impeach what I was saying, because here's the deal. I don't need to add anything to my truth. The truth is the truth. You don't need to add anything. And so there were nefarious actors. The young lady that people keep telling me, I didn't watch the Shine documentary, but people keep telling me they heard him mention Sharice Myers. Sharice Myers was a security guard, the female security. When I was entering the club, she went into my bag. She's searching bags. She wrestled the comb out of my bag and said, "You can't bring this in. This is a weapon." And then proceeded to let 2 celebrities in with weapons. Incidentally, somebody on the netizen pointed out, wow, she took your comb and said it's a weapon, but let Combs in with a weapon, and Combs shot you in your face. You get it? The comb in my bag and Combs shot me. That's how infinite God is. He was dropping Easter eggs and clues the entire time. And I'm so thankful. But she spoke in the trial, and that is the only thing I can attribute to Shine's mentality of fall guy. She told a lie on the stand that she fell on top of Puffy when the shooting was taking place, and there's no way he could have been shooting, for which she was impeached immediately. Everybody, every cop, everybody said that is an unequivocal lie. And if you watch that podcast, you'll see the cops say, now, Sharice Myers lied. And so there was a lot of shifty stuff. And there was, of course, Puffy, who is, in my opinion, a narcissist. And he wanted to make sure he didn't have to go to jail. And so whoever had to take the rap for him. Remember, they initially arrested the limousine driver, Wolf, Shine, and Puffy, and JLO. JLO, for some strange reason, look at them. You think they went out on Christmas like that? You see the outfit underneath JLO's outfit? Not for 1 second did they leave their house looking like that. You've never seen pictures of them dressed like that. But the agenda to deceive people was afoot from day one, from as soon as the incident occurred. Someone handed them T-shirts to put on. And the detectives in the podcast said there was a famous cop. You've heard of the hip hop cop squad. There's a famous cop that was the preeminent detective in the squad from back in the days, Derek Parker. They admit that Derek Parker was kicked out of the hip hop police because he slid Puffy a cell phone while he was in the jail cell in Midtown North. The cops that investigated this was Midtown South. They ran so far from the police in the Navigator, they made it all the way to the confines of Midtown North, and they were in the police cell, and they caught Derek Parker sliding Puffy a gun. They ended up throwing him out of the unit. I can only imagine that's where they got the T-shirts too.
So did JLo have it in there, do you think? Because that's always what they're saying, is that she was the mule, right? She was hiding it in I don't know, the coat, the purse. What do you think happened?
The cops said the only two people that were not searched were Puffy and JLo. And anybody from the neighborhood, the hood, the whatever understands from thug movies, when guys don't, if a guy presumes himself to be searched, he gives it to the woman to hold. Nobody's going to search JLo. They were the only two that went in unsearched. She brought the gun in the club, and this is according to the police, Little Rod's complaint for his lawsuit, and what we know from life. She brought that gun in, not the least of which is, you will hear the cops tell a story of when they were fleeing from the police in the Silver Navigator, there was a gentleman sitting in his car. He was a driver for escorts. He said he watched the Navigator fly down the block and the rear passenger window opened and a slim, light-skinned white hand threw a gun out of the car and it landed out of the window and it landed on top of his car. That's in the original documents and everything, in the trial transcript and everything. I don't know why they let JLo off. They tried to flip her, the cops said, and make her a witness. But she threw the gun out of the window and it landed on the hood of the guy's car. Thank you, Father God. No such thing as a perfect crime. So he then sees the cop chasing this Navigator fly down the street. He gets out and gets the gun. He calls his boss instantly like, hey, I saw this Navigator, being chased by the cops and somebody lowered the back window and threw a gun out and it landed on my car. He gave the gun to his boss, who then within a day or so started seeing the news coverage and gave the gun to the police. JLo brought the gun in and then threw it out and then lied to all of the law enforcement and the grand jury. Come to the front of the room, Jenny, with a Glock. You got some splaining to do.
Wow. I mean, we've all suspected this. We've all sort of applied it. But you look, what's impressive most is, and it makes sense, you have paid attention to this case, obviously with good reason, since the beginning. You have every right to file this case, to file every podcast, every little morsel of insight you can get. They must hate you for it because they did get away with it, right? And so why do you think they got away with it? We alluded to it in part one, but this cover up, like both the whole misdirect that Shine took the fall nonsense. He was actually accused of shooting you. JLo clearly was caught throwing this weapon out.
Of shooting me. Shine was accused of shooting Julius Jones.
Oh, sorry, correct. But so why didn't Puffy and JLo get the proper, conviction?
Because their money is super long and people love adjacency to fame, celebrity. People are willing to sell their integrity for $1. Sharice Myers, all of you other people who took a payoff, perhaps the jury, everybody come to the front of the room and make an account for your behavior. People were paid off. People love celebrity. We see it in everyday society now. People go on the internet and pay $1,000 for 3 strands of a celebrity's hair. Like, let's be honest. People are obsessed with celebrity, and that is how. And this mockery and this circus that's taking place right now on the internet and in social media, all of this chicanery that's taking place, and people who are making this about themselves and using all these ridiculous clickbait thumbnails and titles, you are the reason that he got off the first time. Back then, we didn't have social media. It was the magazines. It was his street team. It was the media. It was the radio stations. They all were social media back then. The same circus that's taking place now took place back then. I need you people to chill out. You are going to create a situation where reasonable doubt can be created. Stop it. If you have any decency or care about the victim, stop.
I did want to ask you, just because you touched on it briefly there about, people will spend ridiculous amounts of money on things for celebrities. I think you're absolutely right. And we talk about the bribery, etc. One of the things that's really gotten a lot more attention over the past couple of weeks, and then again, we really saw it come through more in the government filings against Combs this week, was that tape, the Cassie tape, and that the feds are alleging that he paid $100,000 to make that tape disappear. I would assume that doesn't surprise you.
No.
How much of that do you think has been going on over the past 25 years?
A ton of it.
Okay.
A ton. And here's why. First and foremost, if he paid $100,000 for the Cassie video, how much do you think he paid the club owners for the video of him shooting me? When they look in that vault of his archival footage, this lovely archive he likes to keep, and perhaps he has a Chianti with some fava beans and wears a skin coat like Silence of the Lambs while he watches those old videos. Look in that archive and find the video of him shooting me in Club New York. I bet you he paid way more for that one. People are willing to take payoffs because we live in a society where people lack integrity. There is almost zilch, zero, nada, no moral plateau in this world. Anything goes, especially if you throw some money on it. And that is a shame. It's disheartening. It is not lost on me that had anyone listened to me and took what I said seriously, there would be no Cassie video because he would have been incarcerated. He would have been appropriately charged for attempted murder and incarcerated. But money talks and BS walks. I didn't make that up. You didn't make it up. We heard that cliche when we grew up. That existed long before. And it begs to reason why he was able to get away. Money talks. If somebody is in their everyday life and this case crash landed and intersected with their life, and they are facing foreclosure and facing eviction and can't make ends meet, and the kids are hungry and mama need a new pair of shoes, and they crash land by virtue of the fact that they were a witness to the shooting or they worked in the club that night and they know their testimony is going to be used. And they walk up to them and he sends his minions out because they had to produce the witness list. That's why the federal government doesn't want to produce the witness list now. They produced that witness list. You'll hear on the POFR, they interviewed 350 people. How on earth am I the only person still speaking 25 years later? Where's the 350 people? 350 people were interviewed and said they saw him with a gun and fire a gun. Where are they? Has nobody asked how an entire New York City nightclub full of people have amnesia for 25 years? I mean, come on.
Have you, speaking of that, have you spoken to the feds or any of this in this current investigation?
I have not, but I am a willing participant, sir. Come look me up. You know how to get in touch with me. Because they mentioned me in this recent filing. They mentioned my case.
Yep.
Right.
So if you mention my case, and they have not added all of the superseding indictments, because they don't, if they add the superseding indictments, they have to add the witness list. And they already have proof in the annals of history that is indelibly marked in time and can't be erased, that he will get that witness list and eviscerate every witness there. Okay? We are 25. You want to tell me in 25 years, nobody who was in the club came out later and said, well, I was there that night. I did see what happened. Nobody? Ask yourself why. Perhaps those lovely NDAs that he writes in perpetuity, people are afraid to break it. Ask yourself. I tell them all the time, cease and desist your mama. You can't bring no cease and desist to me. Only person that can cease and desist me is God up above or his son, Yeshua. That's it. I don't respond to man. The person that saved me or the entity that saved me from this 9mm gunshot wound to my face is God. And that is the only person I answer to.
That's that's a huge, it's true. Like the fact that they never were able to come around and get a single person from that incident, which I believe you, there's evidence that believes you, that proves you, they're telling the truth here. And it paralleling that to this now current case, why the prosecution is so ensuring to try to keep him in under bail, because what he was able to do back then, imagine what he could do now, especially the powerful people that are probably on these tapes and stuff. And in fact, I want to talk about some of those people, some of these players in this circus, if you will. I want to get Tania's thoughts on them because I trust your instincts on this. You've been following this the closest. So we're going to be back with her for part 3. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and please get this one out there. This is imperative people know the truth about this story because it's so connected to the current story. Diddy's motives, Diddy's lack of credibility, with the methods he will go to stop the truth. I'm so grateful you're here telling this story. Make sure if you want to hear more from her, you subscribe to her as well over at The Dopest Nerd on YouTube. We'll put the link in the description. So grateful for her time. We got more with her coming soon, so stay tuned.